Welcome, Gabby, to the Highest Self podcast. It's so great to have you here.
It's great to be here. I'm so glad to finally meet you.
The first question I'd love to ask you is what makes you your highest self?
What makes me my highest self is when I'm authentic, because if I am keeping it real, then I am in my highest truth and I feel free.
Mm, I love that. Simple, but hits the nail on the head. So, you've definitely stepped into a whole other level of authenticity with this new book, Super Attractor, which I've so enjoyed reading because I feel like you've kind of been that gateway drug to so many people into the spiritual world
Yeah.
that, you've opened up like, there's a universe and it supports you and these are the ways, and now you're saying, okay, I'm going to take this to a whole other level and tell you about spirit guides and guardian angels and these unseen beings. So can you share with us kind of your own process and journey that sparked this book?
I used to say that I wrote my books for my readers, but I've come to realize I write my books for myself. So I write them for myself first, and then of course for my reader. And I think that if I need it, then it will resonate, right? I think that whatever I'm going through, my readers typically going through in their own ways. So I know that I'm answering a problem for them and solving it for them in a way, and giving them the guidance to solve it for themselves. So this book I wrote at a time where I was pregnant while I was writing this book. I had just come off of launching my earlier book, Judgment Detox, and I was ready to write a book. And Judgment Detox is my most important book, I think, because it's the deepest one and it's the one that makes you go to the places that you have to be brave enough to go to. But it's not the one that everybody wanted to do all the work because it's a harder book, right?
Yeah,
So coming out of that launch was like me having done all that work and having done a lot of unearthing and discovery and personal growth. So at this point, I was like, I want a break. Like, let's have some fun. Let me write about something that's going to be really, really fun to write about. And even in the first chapter, I write about how I'm so excited to be writing this book right now. And I say to the reader, like, you can probably feel my excitement through the page. And when I read it out loud during the audiobook reading, I was like, I do feel my excitement in that moment coming through this now, because I remember how thrilled I was to just be able to write about feeling good and write about shifting our thinking and write about making feeling good a priority. So that's what really guided me to write it, because I was ready for that. I was ready for it in my own life.
totally. And I think it's that beautiful journey that we go through of doing the work and then being like, okay, but it's not meant to always feel so hard. It can also
Correct.
be really fun, and having that balance of the two of them, which I think is super important. So you talk about at the beginning, you kind of hit this rock bottom moment, which was a different rock bottom to the one that you had that began your spiritual journey, but it was one of overwork, which I talk about all the time and a lot of people can relate to. So, can you tell us what was happening in your life at that time?
Well, I've come to understand my addiction behavior, my addict behavior, because of different things that I've unearthed about my childhood, that I think that we all have to look there to understand more about who we are. So, having done the deep, heavy lifting around facing childhood trauma, I have come to understand why I was a drug addict and alcoholic, why I was a workaholic, why I had, stomach issues and panic attacks. And, I have a lot of compassion and love and forgiveness for myself for all the tough stuff I've been through, because I know the root cause of it. And so I wrote about some of that in this book, where I shared about how here I was again hitting bottom, but it wasn't just with workaholism, it was with the need to be in control. Because when you've had trauma in your past, no matter what it is, one of the ways to feel safe is to try to stay in control. So what I write about in this book is the freedom that I experienced in releasing that control, and also the freedom that I experienced in hitting that bottom. Every bottom I've hit throughout my spiritual path has been an up leveling. It's been an opportunity to go to a deeper place so that I can heal more and that I can serve more. So I don't want people to be afraid of their tough times, because I often say that the tough times reveal to us what we still need to heal.
I love that. And I think a lot of people where they get confused is Well, you've already gotten to where you are, Gabby, so maybe now you can have fun. But since I haven't gone there yet, shouldn't I work super hard until I get to that place that I can relax? Do you think you would have gotten to where you are had you had this, focus on fun the entire journey?
I have had a lot of fun along the way while going through some really big things. And so I think that's the message for the listener is you can be going through tough stuff and still have a good time.
So for someone right now who's like, I want to be a spiritual teacher, I want to be an author, but it feels like so much work. Should I be focusing on feeling good or should I be going into that work? How would you approach that balance?
I think anything that we pursue that feels passion driven won't actually feel like work. So if it's feeling like a lot of work, then my suggestion would be get into the flow with what's joyful about it for you. So if that's blogging or if that's sharing a story through a talk or writing the first chapter of that book. But if it's not fun for you, it won't work.
Hmm. Totally. And I think it's expanding what is fun. I think a lot of us were like, oh, fun is me at a concert, and that's one version of
Yes.
fun.
And I guess I want to also be clear, like it might not be fun in the sense that like one of my best friends is writing a book, right? Her first book right now. And she's like, wow, this is so hard, but she's still enjoying the process. Well, she's still like, what the hell did I sign up for? But she's really enjoying the process and she's super passionate about the topic. So, I think that I'm not trying to say that it isn't hard to write a book or that it isn't, but to be very honest with you, in my career, I have never felt that things were hard. It's been more personal stuff that's been tough for me. But
Mm.
but work wise, it has been a major source of joy in my life, and that's why it has flowed. And that's the message of the book. It's like when you identify that you can bring joy to these even things that seem uncomfortable or joyless, then they begin to flow and they begin to heal or they begin to grow or they begin to have an impact.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And you have to be experiencing that, in Sanskrit, we say kriya, which is the effortless flow and your alignment to your dharma. So feeling that one door leading to the next and the synchronicities and the universe is propelling you in that direction in a way that you could have never done it alone. And that's how you know you're on that path.
Yes, beautifully said, Sarah. Very beautifully said.
Hmm. So I want to get into manifestation. Everyone has their own approach to it. What is your take on manifestation?
Mine's simple. It's you feel good and you will attract, period. It's like, and sometimes when we feel good, like right now I'm manifesting something, I have a vision of something that I wanted to, a media placement that I was hoping to attract into this book launch, because I know that it will get the book in the hands of a different audience that maybe may not have found me yet. So I actually am just like totally relaxed about it. And like, I keep going back and forth with the reporter, the freelance reporter who's pitching it with me, or she's pitching it on my behalf because she's into the idea. And we're just having fun talking about it. And like, she called me today and I was like, who is this calling me? Like, I'm not like waiting for her call. And I'm like, oh, hey, like totally just like not remembering that this is happening and letting it flow. And like when we got a no from one section of this publication, she's like, oh, okay, but they suggested I go to this section. I'm like, yeah, we're being guided. Like just say yes to what you're being told to do. And so that's how I manifest. I know that I'm truly manifesting when I don't care.
I love that. And it's that level of wanting it without the attachment of it. And
That's
that's
what I mean. It's
something,
not that I don't
yeah.
care about the desire. Of course, I want that thing in my life, but I let it go.
Hmm. And I think that's what's so difficult for people.
Yes.
You're manifesting, and as you call, you become the manic manifester that you're like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then that energy is repelling it. So can you talk about what a manic manifester is?
Yeah, it's the person that's trying to force it, right? It's the person who's like, I'm doing all the meditations and they're not feeling free in those meditations because they're doing it to check it off the list, or they're obsessing or controlling the manifestation. So your energy blocks it. And that manic energy is definitely a major block.
Totally. So I want to talk about kind of changes you've made in your business now with this super attractor mindset. How has this actually looked like in your day-to-day business, your team?
Here's an example. This is a good one. We were launching our masterclass, our Spirit Junkie masterclass, and we are on a CRM platform that's been failing us. And the emails were going out at like snail speed, and some of them weren't even going out. And we were just like, everyone was freaking out. It's like the last 2 days of the launch, and this is when we really let people know about this thing. And so we got on the Zoom chat like this, and the team was all there. And I looked at them and I was like, normally old Gabby would like, remember, control was my defense for feeling out of control, would be like a trauma trigger for me. But because I've done so much personal growth work and I really focus on just letting things flow much more than ever before, and it always has been on my agenda, but it hasn't been always that easy. But as a result of really going through this, really bravely going through this and really surrendering, I sat on the call with them and I was like, okay, I'm going to go meditate and I'll be right back and let's see what happens. And so I started meditating, and then I heard my inner guide say, meditate with them. So I got on the phone with the girls, and as soon as I got on the phone, they're like, oh my God, the emails are moving again. And so then we all meditated for 20 minutes on the Zoom, and then the email went out. And so I don't mean that to be like, oh, we're playing tricks with the universe, but it's that we changed our energy. And so we stopped trying to control something, and that control could have gotten in the way or could have made a mistake. And so letting it go allowed it to come into form.
Absolutely.
It's a silly example, but if you ask me about my business, that's something that has changed.
No, but 100% spirit works through technology. I think for some reason we're like, oh, spirit can only exist in like the physical plane, but it's working through technology. It's working when you're on Instagram and the app shuts down. It's like, get off Instagram. Like
that's right,
that is spirit working through us. So I love that. And I think there's so much power in group meditations as well to just create that collective energy.
Always.
So you told a story in the book, which I absolutely loved, which was about a little boy named Jack who was not happy about not making it to a baseball team. So can you share with us the story and the emotional scale that you used to help him through it?
Yeah, totally. So this is a cute story. So my friend's son was trying out for a baseball team, and he was very scared that he wasn't going to get to the next level. And he came home from the tryouts and he didn't get there. And he was very, very upset about it. And so I went over to him and I kind of let him rant. I let him go off. And I noticed that as he started just going off about it, he was going from like despair to blame. And then from blame to like worry. He was just moving in this new direction, even though it was seemingly still uncomfortable emotions. And I realized what he was doing was what Abraham Hicks calls the emotional scale, where even if you're at despair and hopelessness, you can still reach up higher to anger and rage. And that's a better feeling of emotion. So I lay out the entire format. This is funny. Remember we were talking about the reporter? She's calling me right now. She might have good news for us.
Calling her in.
Exactly. Who knows? We'll see what happens. All right. So I'll have to report back to you later what happened. So he's reaching up the scale, and that's where I decided to share in the book the emotional scale, because what we don't realize is that even if we're angry, that's actually a better feeling emotion than the hopelessness. Or if we're jealous, that's a better feeling energy than the anger. I haven't memorized the scale, so I have to, it's a 20 level scale, but I can speak to it briefly, and I can also, it's all in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. No, what I loved is, at first he's like, oh, I didn't make the team. Then he's like, the coach didn't choose me. And then he came back later. He's like, I'm bored. And you were super excited that he said he was bored, because boredom is then when you shift to curiosity and then eventually joy in that exact same day. So it's
Correct.
letting us just go through the wave and knowing that any emotion can change at any point in time.
Correct. That's right.
Yes.
How funny would that be if that reporter is calling with the good news? That'll be interesting.
I think you should pick up the phone call on the podcast so we could all hear the energy and motion.
Maybe.
Yes.
She might not like that.
So Abraham Hicks is someone that really inspired your work. I want to know more about how you found out about Abraham Hicks, what your journey has been with Esther and that field of material.
Yeah. So I've been studying Abraham since the beginning, since even before I got sober. It's been something that's been on my radar. And the work of Abraham has been such a fun work to teach because it brings people joy. It makes them feel good. I believe wholeheartedly in Abraham's work, but I have some differing beliefs, and some of what I feel differs most is that I do believe that we have to face some of our darker moments to really allow them to be healed. But like I said, we don't have to, and maybe I don't think Abraham's saying don't do therapy and don't do work, but when it comes to trauma and when it comes to addiction, the power of positive thinking is extremely helpful to create a better momentum. But I believe that you have to remain very devoted to the healing path. And so there's a difference between so this is where Abraham and I would agree, going through the healing path with a positive attitude will help you continue to focus on your wellness rather than your illness. But I think there is sort of a level of focusing on our illness that is necessary to get through to the next level. So that's where there might be a little bit of a wishy-washy kind of comparison. And I only say that because I do think that when we become brave enough to wonder what's underneath our problems and our blocks, that's when real big things can start to shift.
Totally. Yeah. I went to Abraham a couple months ago, and it was really interesting. I mean, so much of it resonates true with me, but I also agreed that can we really it almost felt like there could be some spiritual bypass that's happening under the rules that one could take of Abraham, which I don't think is what they intend to say, but it's how one could perceive it.
That's how it could be perceived. I do believe, though, that what they would say is like, if you're going to do the therapy, then do it have a good time doing it, right? Or if you're, if you're going to look at, I don't know how like healing childhood trauma would be fun, but I feel better along the way.
Right. Exactly. And it's kind of still moving you up that emotional scale, but maybe on a grosser level that at that moment it doesn't feel
Right.
fun, but in general it's bringing you
And
up.
that's actually where the emotional scale comes in to really show the example of why this isn't just, be happy, right? She's not saying that. She's not saying jump to be happy, right? She's saying that, or Abraham is saying that you reach for the next best feeling, emotion, and thought.
Mm. So I want to talk about how you manifest. You use a lot of prayer and asking the universe for support. So for example, one question a lot of listeners had was manifesting money. How do you work with that? Do you set specific amounts, or do you just ask for the energy of abundance to come in? What does it look like for you?
I sometimes find that it's nice to be specific about what you desire, but sometimes those specifications can take you out and they can make you feel like I'm not even close to that, but you realize that like what you are attracting is good. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So sometimes when we put the pressure on through a specific desire, if it feels like pressure, then let go of the specifics. Does that make sense? If it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like pressure, then you can hold on to them. You have to decide for yourself. But when it comes to manifesting money, I think that uh, I think what it's really about is manifesting a feeling of worthiness.
Mhm. Do you believe you have to be worthy of that thing you're trying to manifest?
Yes.
Yes. Because this is where there are some differing beliefs. There are some people who they believe it's all about the worthiness, and some people say, well, could you really feel worthy of it if you don't have it yet? And sometimes you manifest things that you didn't think you're worthy for, but you still put the energy there.
Well, that's what I love Abraham says. Sorry, I'm like gulping water. I'm really hydrating lately. So what Abraham says is, a lot of times we think like, I'll be happy when I get that thing. But Abraham says, when you're happy, you'll get that thing. And so
Mhm.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And so the first priority to manifest is feeling good. And
Mhm.
that's where I would say, when you are guided to that yoga teacher, you're guided to that book, or you're guided to your podcast, you're being given these opportunities to feel good.
Mm. So what about manifesting from the place of of despair of I can't feel like this anymore. I feel so shitty that I need a way out. Do you think that there's a level of manifestation ability in that?
Absolutely. That's where the emotional skill comes back in. It's like, okay, I feel so shitty. I need a way out. I know that I have Sahara's podcast I can listen to. And that's where Abraham says, like, reach for general, go general, reach for something that feels better than what you were just thinking.
Mm.
So I can go listen to that podcast, or I've got that book that somebody sent me, or I can go to that yoga class this afternoon, or I know I feel better when I do deep breathing. So reaching, reaching, reaching.
And that's what you call the choose again.
Yeah, in my book, I write about a choose again method, which is witnessing the storyline, the uncomfortable storyline, and really acknowledging how it's making you feel, because it's the feeling that's attracting. And then the second step is to forgive the thought and forgive yourself for having the thought, because a lot of times we'll beat ourselves up. I'm too spiritual to think like that, or, I should be over this by now. Forgive yourself for having the thought and forgive the thought. And then the third step is to choose again, which is right out of the Abraham playbook. It's choose the next best feeling thought.
So do you think that someone else's manifestation can get in the way of your manifestation if they have different outcomes?
Can someone else's manifestation get in the way of your manifestation?
So, for example, this is what a listener asked, and how I'm seeing this is, let's say you're
Oh,
manifesting
guess
to be in
what?
a.
Guess what?
They
Got
t-
some good news for you. Call me back when you get a moment.
we did it! Everyone here listening,
Awesome.
you were
On
part of
a
this.
podcast, we'll call after. I want a podcast, I'll call after.
Manifestation in action right now. Focus
Oh
on feeling
my.
good. Congratulations. Woo!
That will really get my book into the hands of the people who need it most. And that is something to really share about when it comes to manifesting, is that what I write about in the book is that you want to make sure that your ego isn't behind it. And like when I didn't care, right? I was like, I didn't even realize she was calling me, It allowed it to just be released and relaxed. And then the other part that's really special about that is that I, from the get-go, have been not attached to it from personal gain. I've been not even attached to it at all, but I was wanting it because I knew that placement will put the book in the hands of far more people than I even can reach today.
So, what would a prayer look like to align your desires with the greater desires of the universe?
I would say, thank you, universe, for guiding in this instance, or just in general.
In general, or what
So
you've
thank you,
been.
thank you, universe, for guiding me towards my desire. But I mainly pray for what's of the highest good for all. So that prayer of I pray for what's of the highest good for all, and it's kind of saying it's this or something better. And praying for the highest good gets you, it gets you, it gets your ego out of the way, because you're no longer like, it has to be this, get me my boyfriend right now, You're really letting the universe do for you what you cannot do for yourself. And let's see, she's writing back. First book, okay. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna stop doing my PR while I'm on the phone with you.
Well, I mean, I love seeing that you're using it and it's working for you, and it's super inspiring for people to see that you could align something with the greatest good for all and it will still work out in the best case for you. I think there could be some underlying fear of people like, well, I don't know what's the greatest good for all, but this is what I want, when if it's,
I have an example that I was trying to manifest something. This is a kind of a shameful example, but it's important. So when my last book, Judgment Detox, came out, I had a vision of selling 40,000 books in the first week. And that to me meant like a #1 spot on the New York Times list and all this. So we sold the 40,000 books in the first week. Everyone was freaking out about the pre-order numbers. And I was in some meetings the day that I would find out about the New York Times. And I went into the bathroom and I said, thank you. If this is #1 or #2, I don't care, whatever is of the highest good for all. And then that night I'm walking to dinner with my agents and about to meet my publisher. And we're expecting to have this like big celebratory dinner. And my agent's like looking at his phone and he goes, oh no. Oh no. I'm like, what, man? What? And he says to me, the book's just not on the list. It's not on the list. It's not on the list. It's not on the list. And the New York Times is like kind of notorious for like, if they see a lot of sales or something, they think people are doing some monkey business, which I was not. I was just selling books, right? Or they're like, don't like that you have too many Amazon orders. I don't really know, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that was what was of the highest good for all, because I needed an ego kick in the ass, and I needed to redirect my focus on having more fun and not be so hung up about, some list, correct? Right.
Mm.
So that was such a good moment for me. And then now with my new book coming out, like I could give two shits if this book is on the New York Times list. I just wanted people to get it in their hands. And
Mm.
so it's such a better way to launch. I feel so relaxed. I know it's going to have so much more success as a result of me not caring, but I thought that would be appropriate for your audience to hear that story. And it's a little shameful for me because I don't want readers to think that I didn't care about them. Of course I cared about them. And
Mm.
I just had to be reminded that the outside stuff is not what I'm doing this for.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And I think we do, especially as an author, I just know so many people who get so caught up into the list and the this, and they forget what the journey is all about, which is getting their message out there.
I think that's happened to most people, unfortunately. But the good news is I got a smack in the ass. The universe was like, hell no, girl, we're not doing that.
Mm. So I think that person's question was similar to this, that if what you are trying to manifest is not for the greatest good of all, or it's not like, let's say you're trying to be in a partnership with someone and they don't want to be in a partnership with you, can you out manifest them?
Hell no. No.
Yeah.
You can't control people with your manifesting. And I say this in the book too, like, don't play magic tricks with the universe.
Yeah.
Like,
This is not a black magic book.
no. You could manifest, you feeling more confident, and you could work on allowing your energy to change. And then the relationship might change as a result of your energy changing, but you can't do it because you want your relationship to change. You have to do it because you want to feel better and you want to change.
Love that. So I want to talk about spirit guides, guardian angels, the entities that you work with. So can we talk a little bit about spirit guides and how you work with them?
Yep. So I have always believed deeply that we have guides and angels that are working on our behalf, that are there as a bridge to bridge our thoughts from the fear-based earthly worldly experience we're having, and be the bridge to guide our thoughts back to God or love or our higher self or whatever you believe in. And so these guides are there to support us, to protect us, to heal us, and most importantly, to guide our thoughts. So when you don't have the answer and you feel like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, you can pray to your guides and say, thank you, guides of the highest truth and compassion, for helping me see things differently. Or today I was trying to make a decision about something I have to do and I didn't know what to do, but I had an intuition. But I didn't want to make that call without asking for support. And so I said, guides, show me an owl, which is what I write about in my book, Universe. The universe has your back. Show me an owl if I'm supposed to do this. And I said, show me an owl before 2 p.m. Okay. Hadn't seen my owl. And I walked into my office not thinking about the owl. And this doesn't sound like it's not real, but it is, because even if it's something that's regularly in your home, but you see it like off guard, that's the sign. Okay. So I walk into a room and boom, there was this owl foot painting right in front of me that I forgot, that like, I don't think about it regularly. And then I looked down at my journal. My journal page was opened to, it's my Universe Has Your Back journal that my best friend Michaela designed. And it was open with, I'd been journaling in it. And it was the page that had 2 owls that were kissing. So it was like, okay, got it. I'm good. So I trust these things. And that's that. I mean, I have far more synchronistic moments than that I write about in Super Attractor, but you have to read the book to find out.
Yes, you share about a cardinal in this book. Lots of bird signs.
Cardinals, songs,
Yeah.
angels. I mean, it goes on and on. And I really, really wanted my grandmother, Wayne Dyer. There is so much synchronicity in this book. It's going to be a fun book to talk about because there's so many good stories.
So what if you set that precedent, like show me a Buddha or a dolphin or whatever it is, and it doesn't show up? Does that mean your guides aren't listening to you?
That's still a sign, my love. That's a sign. It's
So
time
that
not
means
to do
that,
it.
okay. So you would position it in the way, show me a sign if I should, and if not, I'm also taking this as a sign from you that I should not.
Yeah, it could be should or should not, whatever you are thinking, like, or show me a sign that I'm on the healing path, or that I'm on the right track, or whatever your request may be.
Mm.
Show me a
And
sign that you're guiding me.
right. And do you know kind of do you have names, characters for these spirit guides, or do you just sort of work with them as an unseen realm?
Yeah, throughout the book, I talk about how I know the presence of the guides are there, and I help the reader kind of begin to differentiate the presence of different guides. And so, Wayne Dyer is a very special guide to me. And when I feel Wayne's energy, I feel really relaxed and calm. I bring him with me onto the stage, and I ask him to move through me on the stage because his calming presence really allows me to feel more free. I feel the presence of an Archangel Michael, who is the protector. When he's in this space, I feel like the room is expanding and the space is getting very large, and I see blue lights, and I often see lots of sparks of light. I write about something very cool called light episodes in the book. That's a message from A Course in Miracles. I'm not going to give it all away though, Sahara. I'm not going to give it all away.
No, I love it. And I love how you break down the different archangels that people can work with, because I think a lot of us have heard of Michael, but there were some that were related to animals and all sorts of
Yes. Yes.
other realms. And I think with spirit guides, a lot of us, we feel like, oh, well, I didn't hear a voice talk to me. So are you hearing this in your own voice, or are you hearing other voices?
I hear it both ways. I hear it as mainly as like an intuition, a strong intuition, a feeling, a gut knowing. Okay, I've got to go there. Or I hear it when I hear things in my meditation. It's kind of like, when you're reading a book and you can hear the author's voice, even though they're not speaking to you, you're
Mm-hmm.
reading the book. It's
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of feeling of hearing someone else's voice. I hear things through writing. So I'll journal and my hand will start to scribe things that I didn't even think of. And then I've had experience in my life where I've heard a voice, but not that often.
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think a lot of us because we're so used to like human contact, we expect this person to show up in the chair and talk to us as if a human would, and it's so much
That
more
could happen
subtle.
though.
It
That could
could.
happen.
It could. And I think different people are, have different clairs, like clairaudient, clairvoyant. The one that I resonate most with is claircognizant, that it's sort of
Mhm.
just this knowing without the actual image and voice.
That's how I experience spirit mostly. Yeah.
Hmm. So for people out there who are, they know they want to do something more in life, maybe it's write a book or something, they can't pinpoint what it is. What advice would you have for them? How can they use the laws of being a spirit super attractor and all of the other tools that you offer?
If you don't know what you're being called to do, my advice is to do more of what brings you joy. Because when you do things that bring you joy, they will reveal to you what you're meant to be doing in the world and what you're meant to be creating. So, I've been leading spiritual motivational talks since I was 14 years old. I was the president of the Jewish youth group, and I would lead teenagers on weekend retreats to talk about Judaism and spirituality. And so, I mean, I did what my effortless actions revealed to me what my career path was going to be. And so I would recommend, what are the things that you do by choice? What is it that brings you joy? What is it that you would do even if no one paid you? If no one paid me to do this, I would write books for the rest of my life. I would give talks all over the world. Many of the talks I do give on my book tour, I don't make money on those talks. I just want to be out and talk to people, right? I want to get the message out to the world. And so, yeah, have fun.
Exactly. Going
Focus on
back.
what's working. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all inside of you. It's just remembering it again and not having the judgment towards it. Mm.
Correct.
Well, if you have one piece of advice for your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
It would be, stick around for the miracles.
Mm. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us. Where can people connect with you and order Super Attractor?
Just go to gabbybernstein.com or go to gabbybernstein.com/super attractor book. When you can join me on my book tour. I'm going to be all over the country. There's also pre-order, when you order the book, you get a manifesting workshop with me, like a video replay from this live manifesting jumpstart workshop. And it was by far the best talk I've ever given. And it was so much fun and so much joy that if you just buy the book just to get that alone, it's worth it. But the book will bring you even more joy. So read the book. But that's at gabbybernstein.com/super attractor book.
Well, I've loved reading it. I've had it on my bedside table. So when I wake up in the morning, I just kind of open up a page because they're also inspiring. It's just a feel good
Nice.
book.
Nice. Nice. You're awesome. You're a lovely interviewer. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.